Hello and welcome to the second installment of our podcast, Forward Finance, where we navigate the digital age of finance. My name is Jeroen Beentjes, I'm a consultant at Finext, and here with me today I have Benno and Tim, who will join me in talking about the EPM world again.
All customers, with reason, are very critical about all kinds of certification processes, because you know that you need to know that your vendor has got his stuff straight, right?
Fundamentally, it is, remember, these days, EPM is part of a transformation. It's not just for EPM, it's a finance transformation.
Tim, can you give me a short introduction about yourself?
Hi there, I'm Tim Ahmad. Very much EPM is at my heart and blood. I love talking about it even in my sleep. I don't know why, but I do it. And in that sense, but what I really enjoy is networking out there. I network with the global communities, different regions. So in that sense, 40,000 people in my networks, 55 WhatsApp groups I manage, which are kind of system focused. So please join if you want to. That's about me. Yeah.
Cool, sounds good. Maybe we could do a night episode later on when the series pick up. But Benno, can you tell me something about yourself?
Yeah, sure. And thanks, Jeroen, for having us here again. My name is Benno van Ingen. I'm a lead consultant for EPM solutions at Finext. I've been here for roughly 15 years. I've been implementing many of the solutions in our portfolio with different customers and use cases.
Yeah, I think important to address here. Today we are talking about EPM and the various vendors, but we are in a vendor neutral state. So we love all of the different softwares equally. And therefore we think we are able to advise companies in a independent way as well. Today we are going to be looking at the most recent events in the EPM market, and then we'll dive into some questions I prepared for the gentlemen. So looking at past events, Benno, did you perhaps attend one of those EPM events from the last few months?
Yeah, the most recent one I joined was Accelerate, which is a VENA event that they host once a year. Back in the days pre-COVID, it used to be a live event in the US, but of course that has all gone online and it never came back, unfortunately. And so online event has a lot of content that you would expect in such an event. So what are the trends in FP&A? What are the what's the way that the product addresses it? What does the roadmap look like? But also a lot of maybe not so common topics. For instance, quite a lot of knowledge sharing sessions about Excel. And uses a lot of Excel, so a lot of tips and tricks how to work with array formulas and other nerdy stuff.
Cool.
But some other stuff that really stood out is I think the two bigger topics were, first of all, industry solutions. So prepackaged materials. And I see that with a lot of vendors that are specific, let's say, planning models for banking and insurance, for manufacturing, for what have you, professional services. And the other thing that's also quite a big topic, and we might touch upon that later or in the next episode, I don't know, is the impact of artificial intelligence and machine learning on FP&A processes. It was quite interesting to watch.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in the market. I think a lot of developments that are good to be shared by the software vendors, but also people from the finance community need to be engaged with these recent developments to keep up to date with their jobs. Yeah. Personally, I've been going to Tagetic in Touch event in Lucca, so it was a live event.
I'm a bit jealous of that.
Yeah. No, I can imagine. The weather was good, the sessions were good, the people were good, so it's like the triple combination of my best favorite things. What we were looking at specifically, it was a lot of buzz around the ESG processes and a lot about the tax Pillar 2 regulations that are coming in. I think they did a terrific job in showing what is going on in the market, how they develop their solutions. We even got in touch with the senior development team. So from the consultant side, we are now in touch with the developers there to keep track of the most recent updates of their platform. So that's really cool. Tim, any events that you've been to?
So I'll talk about two.
Yeah.
One is also again with Tagetic, and it was an event in London that was organized by them, but also aimed at the influencer community. Cool. And these are people who are implementing other software solutions. What was great about it, it was introducing to get it to this community, but also talking about ESG, tax, Pillar 2, all those kind of buzzwords, which was great. But also it was really trying to engage with the communities. Also, I attended the performance lineup event by yourselves, Finex. It was phenomenal. You know, what I saw, there was like 9 of the best systems out there, and the advantage, disadvantage, but also demos. So I think that was a great introduction to the communities.
Yeah, it was really cool. I really love the fact that a lot of people from different places around the world joined. Lots of different functions, but so people from the more corporate finance related items, but also the more business finance related tracks. So people got a view of their own business processes within the various tools. Benno, what was your take on the lineup?
Yeah, it was a really nice event, and I should have mentioned that when you asked me if I've been to any interesting events, because I almost forgot about our own one.
Did we mention you have a short attendance?
Yeah. No, I think it was great. I really liked. So our colleagues have been presenting small demos of each and every one of those, let's say, leading vendors in their space on specific business topics. Really worthwhile. So that was fun to watch them side by side, right? So especially if you're looking for a new solution in the EPM space, it's a really great place to gather the right information and to get a first glimpse of what everything looks like and how it works. So that was fun, and I really liked the breadth of the user the attendees.
All right.
Because there were a lot of controllers, but there's also consultants there, solution architects. There was even a CEO in there, so quite a lot of different people.
Yeah.
And that also shows, I think, that back in the days, like when I wasn't gray yet and everything, I think that consolidation and reporting was really a financial play. So the server was under the desk of the controller, and they were doing their number thing. Nobody else cared about it. You just made up an annual report for the accountants, and I think a lot has changed there. So nowadays, with topics like integrated business planning, you're actually trying to involve more and more people of the organization in your environment, and that leads to a lot of challenges and complexities. From a systems perspective, which is where the solution architects and the architects come in, but also from, let's say, a functional area. So what does the planning process of the sales and marketing department look like, and how is that going to impact the overall company?
So in general, these kind of toolings and processes are mostly finance-owned in the past. Do you see this evolving towards more business-owned processes?
Yeah, but really slowly but steadily. So you will often find that those processes are still coordinated and monitored by finance. Yep. And that the outcome, the final product, is typically a balance sheet, a P&L, and then.
Then, if you missed the performance management lineup and you would like to see something from it, do give us an email. It's podcast@finex.nl, where you can reach us, and then we'll get in touch and maybe give you some behind the curtains view of the recording. So now let's get on with the show. Let's go. All right. Thanks for the introductions and the looking back on recent events. And then we'll start off with the first question. It might be a bit of a controversial question, so be prepared. My question to you guys is, what was your worst mistake in an EPM implementation? I know it's tough to talk about, but do try to be honest. But what was your worst mistake? Any volunteers to start?
I was a junior consultant, and I was eager to impress. I was based in Qatar, and the client was on Excel. Very kind of hard customer, but they were very forthright in what they wanted. So they had short implementation times and short fuses in that sense. So I was eager to impress. So they said, look, this is the requirement, go and do it. I did not challenge them. I kind of just went in like a bull in a China shop. Yes, I'm going to do this. Yeah. And I kind of, it was Oracle HFM from Excel. So of course, at the end of the day, there were some inherent mistakes in the systems, whether they were formula based or chart of accounts based. So without rehashing, redoing, it was like almost a lift and shift, but replicating everything what they had to please them. And under budget and time, and all that stuff. What happened is when we went with the system, with the testing, it was a nightmare. All the problems, the users went crazy, adaptability, they didn't want it, and why Excel is better, blah, blah, blah. What I learned, you have to challenge the customer. You cannot just say, look, this is right, let's just do it. Mm-hmm. You have to be a consultant. You can't be just somebody who's just willing to please or be eager. So it was a great experience in the sense that I had a lot of tears, and I thought that's the end of me in EPM. Yeah. And it was in Qatar, so I could make a quick escape now. But I always look at any situation. We're not saints. We're not going to be perfect. We try our best. We learn from our best practices and all that, and also learn from others. So in the sense, collaboration is key with the client, and also get their buy-in by actually look at requirements, deal with them, and also come and sort out their existing mess, or ask them to sort before they think about EPM, and challenge them.
Yeah, basically, it's the job of the consultant to also challenge the requirements, and it's a valuable experience I think you've learned there. So that's good to know. Thanks for your honesty. Benno, any comments on that, or do you want to share your own EPM mistakes, maybe?
Yeah, both actually. So the first comment I want to make is thank you, Tim, for your elaborate story, because it gave me some time to think about my biggest mistake. Because
cheater.
No, but the thing is, I made so many mistakes in the past 50 years. I think it's hard to pick one. Yeah. But I think the most shameful moment actually was where I deleted a boatload of data from a production system in one of my first days as a consultant back in the days at BPC. That wasn't particularly fun. No, it did teach me a lot about how to recover data and all that. But
valuable lessons were learned.
Yeah, it was quite horrible. But because we all understand we shouldn't do that. Like that's a bit of a no-brainer, right? But I think one of the mistakes that I've made, and that I still see being made elsewhere sometimes, is that when you have a system in place for a particular process or an EPM system, that you might want to use it for each and every use case that you can get your hands on. We have some kind of a proverb here in the Netherlands that says if you have a hammer in your hand, everything looks like a nail, right? So you think, I've got a tool, I've got a problem, let's fix that problem with this tool. Completely bypassing the fact that your hammer might really not be fit for that nail. So the use cases that we do in performance management are so wide, and they go from really granular, detailed operational planning to high-level strategic planning or something, and they both ask for different systems, different approaches, and I think I can name a few examples of where we try to embed a particular business process in a system that really wasn't really fit for that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then that might look like a good idea in the short term, but in the end, when you're getting towards the finish line, and when the devil is always in the detail, or longer term in terms of maintenance and the stability of such a solution, you quite often pay the price. And so that's something to take into account when gathering use cases for your EPM solution. Is that really a fit? Is this a good idea? And then if not, should we change the system or should we change the process?
The nail might be a screw, and then you need a screwdriver. I mean, I think you nailed it there with your experience. Thanks for sharing, Benno. I would like to drill down on the example that you gave, Tim, specifically talking about the lift and shift. I see it happen in the implementations that I do, that the customer definitely wants to have their lift and shift. They are pleased with the way things are working right now, but they need to have a new system. They think, I don't want to change too much, so I take the old situation and I just put it in the new system and then hope everything will turn out just the same. What are you guys' opinions on that? Tim, why don't you start?
Sure. I mean, lift and shift, why companies do it. It's basically something they're familiar with. It's not time consuming. Resources pretty much knows what they're doing. Costings, and also things like they want things quickly done. And they think what they have is also really good, you know, in terms of what, and they're not so keen about change.
Yeah.
Change is like wow, you know, it hits them and they like the buzzwords, they like the stuff, AI, this, that. But when it comes to actually doing it, they just want to replicate what they're doing. So it begs to consider, why do they go into a new system? You know, why do they want it? So it's also the consultant's job to explain. It's also the vendor's job to show the best features that better than whatever they've got. Is the systems that they're doing smarter? Is the actual processes they're doing better? So what I'm seeing at the moment, there is a movement away from lift and shift because people are genuinely lifting, shifting mistakes, you know, and processes and things that are like the Qatar example. You know, it was literally, you know, in a way, how can you lift and shift one system to another where sometimes it's not meant for what it was supposed to do? You know, it's
bringing in the old legacy from the past into your new situation.
Exactly. And also, why do companies do it? They think, oh, training, retraining, resources, all that stuff. So it's about being scared. But as I said, I have seen a movement away from this. Is that the case, what you see?
Yeah, definitely recognize that. So even though in some cases that lift and shift isn't such a terrible idea, I think especially in the financial consolidation area, that it could be that process has been around for ages, for decades.
A while now. Yeah, definitely.
And it is a process that isn't that subject to change as, for instance, a business planning process. If you have carefully considered that your process hasn't changed all that much and all that, there might be a good reason to replace your legacy system with something new and just keep on doing what you're doing. It's not always a bad thing. But it's at least it's worth considering it really well. And I also see a declining trend of companies doing that. I think it actually has to do with a couple of reasons. First of all, it's the really fast transition to SaaS. So back in the days, we used to have legacy systems or on-premise systems with, in some cases, quite disruptive updating processes, where you actually had to do a re-implementation to get to a next version, and the life cycle of a product was shorter. What you see on the real SaaS products right now is that you get continuous improvement of the software itself, without any disruption, without any triggers to do re-implementations or lift and shift.
I can imagine that's a challenge for software vendors. I mean, you have to update your existing systems. You might have 1,000 customers, and how do you upgrade that without impacting negatively your
rigorous testing and a lot of formal procedures. That's why also in selection cycles, all customers with reason are very critical about all kinds of certification processes, because you know that you need to know that your vendor has got his stuff straight, right?
Yeah.
So that's one, the movement to SaaS. I think another thing, encouraging not doing the lift and shift for customers is that I think development times in many of the tools that we are implementing are getting lower. Tools are getting smarter, more agile, more easy to adapt. Less coding, more what you see is what you get to interfaces, those type of development. So the penalty for redesigning your application is getting smaller compared to, let's say, legacy products. So
Yes, and it's also about what type of system you lifting, shifting. You know, sometimes, you know, like HFM system is very much script driven. You've got a Tagetic very much template driven, or you've got coded formulas in there. So are you lifting, shifting just that element? You know, it's very hard sometimes just to look at that element, you know, where you've got other aspects of consolidation that's coming to play. IFRSs, ESG, all this stuff, it needs to be consolidated.
Yeah.
And tax, all this stuff. So in that sense, you know, it gives that opportunity now to make that change, to take the hit now, you know, chart of account redesign, which is more smarter, which is more kind of agile. Rather, you've got companies with thousands of lines of, it's mind-boggling COA and rules all over there. So in that sense, it gives you that opportunity for the project as a transformational element, not just EPM, but ERP. So it's an element, I would say, even though you've got great consolidation systems and everything's working hunky-dory, is your chart of accounts the best? Is your rules the best? So sometimes lifting, shifting, can be great, but we need to get the new elements.
And that sort of circles back to the answer to the first question, to your answer to the, you need to challenge your customer to see whether it really is a good idea to replicate exactly what was there in the old environment and do it again. And then there's just assess, if it adds value to redesign it.
Completely.
So do you guys then agree that doing a EPM implementation, is that like a catalyst for change? Can you help your customer to change their processes while doing the implementation?
In many cases, I think that is what happens. And that happens particularly on the planning side of things. Because what you see there is quite often we do replacement of manual or Excel-driven processes rather than lift and shift of another planning system. There's a huge increasing trend of the use of real planning systems for those type of processes, but quite often we're replacing Excel. And even though Excel is a great personal productivity tool, it's not very suitable to work together with large numbers of users. So you will see that processes driven with spreadsheets with customers, they have all kinds of stuff built in there to overcome Excel's shortcomings. And typically they're being solved in VBA and in other horrible solutions and email boxes where you have to send stuff to. If you run into something like that, you're definitely getting a lot of improvements if you're redesigning, creating change in the process, because it just isn't a mature process that you're replacing. So.
Yeah, definitely. In Dutch, we have a proverb saying, alone you go fast, but together you go further. Yeah. So that's enabling people to work together better. Any thoughts on that, Tim?
First thought is I'm learning a lot of Dutch proverbs here, which is really good. Yeah. Fundamentally, it is, remember, these days, EPM is part of a transformation. It's not just for EPM, it's a finance transformation. So in that sense, things are transforming, things are getting better. So it is an opportunity, of course, to engage in and actually challenge and change processes and things like that. But having said that, familiarity is key. Is key to actually getting the buy-in of the users, buy-in of the business. So you've got to do it in a way which shows it the lift and shift elements that you want to replicate, but goes more than that. So I would say, lift and shift the great bits, change the bad bits. That's the way.
Yeah, leave the legacy behind in essence.
Exactly, and try to not inherit problems.
Well, nice. Thanks very much for the very expansive answers. That's really helpful. I hope that the listeners can relate to this content for the future. Then, looking at the time, we don't have a lot of time left on this particular episode. So I quickly want to touch on the big elephant in the room, which is AI. A lot of people are talking about it. It's a buzzword nowadays. Everybody is using ChatGPT for all kinds of things, which is actually a language model, but let's leave that there. What do you guys see for the future of AI in EPM processes? Is there a use case?
Okay, so I'll answer the question. I actually use it quite a lot now. I mean, of course, you've got your communication side, but even now, a good developer can actually use ChatGPT, even the HFM rules. You can throw a rule file in there and actually get bits that will help you. But it's in tandem with a person who knows what they're doing. It's not going to replace, I would say, an expert. Yeah.
So from a practical point of view, how do you exactly use it then?
So fundamentally, in terms of HFM rules, I look at bug fixing. I look at things, how to do better, more efficiently. Even it advises me on repetitive lines, loopings, all this stuff. So, but you can actually throw a whole rule file in there and actually do the variables, name the variables, and it can actually show you bits where you can improve on. more than happy. You can call me if you want to see a bit more better about that. But it's the start. I'm looking for something out there now where I'm doing voice commands, by the way, in ChatGPT. You just put the microphone on and that's it. I'm looking at something a bit more better for the user, Get me an account, put it in the account, put in the mapping file, load the data, do the reconciliation, come back. Actually, it's possible.
Well, I've seen things lately on YouTube regarding Copilot for Excel.
Yeah.
And that's looking very promising. So basically text-based queries so you have a data set and then you say, I want to report on this data set, give me like a balance sheet and a profit and loss. Then the system starts generating reports. It looks pretty, but now make it in our layout style. And then you can also ask it to analyze trends and stuff like that. So there's really like a text-based interaction with your data set through this Copilot. So I'm really curious when Copilot is going to be launched. Benno, do you see any use cases on AI in your professional work?
Yeah, well, the use cases that are being implemented right now, I think using, let's say, ChatGPT or any similar thing to help you with developing and coding, you can do quite some stuff there. You can already use it to help you write your narratives and make your analysis. That's also something that is somewhat there. But I think the biggest use case that's more or less adopted already is in the area of predictive forecasting, and where logic is being used, logarithms are being used to interpret historical data, and that's something that we see, albeit limited, with our customers right now, definitely.
We'll definitely want to drill down on that later. So we have statistical forecasting. What are the use cases? Where are people using it? But I think for today we have to wrap up. Thanks very much for your time in this episode. Looking forward to the next episode. Then as a final wrap up to my listeners, thanks very much for listening to episode 2 of Forward Finance, Navigating the Digital Age of Finance. If you are interested in hearing more about specific topics, if you're interested in a career in the APM world, do reach out to podcast@finex.nl, where you can ask all your queries and I'll answer to them shortly. Any closing thoughts, Tim?
Closing thoughts is challenge your customers, look at AI, and also look at new future developments, analyze softwares out there, and see if things are smarter out there, and go for them.
Cool. Benno?
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. And on top of that, I'd say stay tuned, because there's going to be a lot of more of these podcasts. I think it's a lot of fun. And
yeah, we try to stick to a monthly episode launch, so stay tuned for next month, and then we'll have some more. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, mate.